to MoveCo Live. I'm here with my good friend Dai. I'm here on the East Coast. He's there on the West Coast. Dai, tell us where you are and how's the weather today?
I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia, and the weather is definitely overcast, but it's not raining. It's not raining, so that's a big plus.
Awesome. So happy to have him here today. MoveCo Live is brought to you by the Green Beaver Company. You'll see I've got some of my favorite products behind me. It's all about soap these days, hand soap, castile soap. So thank you again to the Green Beaver. In the show notes, I'll be putting all great info about Dai in there and some great promo codes for you guys to shop Green Beaver. And today we have a really fun topic and an important topic. So I hope you'll take these next few minutes. Let's deep dive into what Dai has to say, because I think this is a topic that everyone can relate to. Dai, what are we going to be talking about today?
Procrastination. We're going to talk about procrastination, I think. I think about, well, just how it affects all of us, right? I mean, at certain points in time in our lives, it may feel a little bit overwhelming at times, and rather than deal with the overwhelm, we run away from it. I'll do that tomorrow. Unfortunately, tomorrow never comes, and it creates a whole lot of other negative emotions, and we beat ourselves up over it. So today we're going to talk about procrastination.
Procrastination. I love that. And folks, if you're like me, where your kitchen is your office and your home life and everything's getting like blended like this, it's so much easier to procrastinate on certain things because like our life looks a little different right now. So I think this is an extremely timely topic, and I'm so excited to get right in there. So I'm going to tell you guys who this awesome human being is, if you don't already know. So his name is Dai Manuel, and he calls himself the purveyor of happiness. And he's got this great website, daimanuel.com, full of inspirational stuff, so go check that out. And he is a super dad, dating his wife with a lead by example way of living and a contagious personality who's on a mission to positively impact 1 million role models around the globe to lead a fun, FUN-ctionally fit life through education, encouragement, and community. He's an award-winning digital thought leader and author, distinguished Toastmaster and keynote speaker, former partner and chief operating officer of a multi-million-dollar retail company, and sought-after lifestyle mentor and executive performance coach. Dai knows the struggle of the juggle and keeping his health and happiness a priority. He models his work based on the 5 F's: fitness, family, faith, finances, and fun, of course. That overarching roof of fun is so important. He's built a rock solid foundation of health on this. So today and every day, Dai's sharing nuggets of wisdom and inspiration for us to all take action to be our best self. And, so excited to get started with this, Dai. So, let's talk about the big P word. Like, why do we procrastinate?
Well, to be fair, it's not our fault. Like, it's not. It's in our DNA. We've been doing it for as long as we've been human beings being human. Like if we go right back to the Paleolithic days, right? All of us as cavemen out there doing what we do. We would often travel large distances seeking food and shelter and warmth. And as Maslow would say, the basic foundational elements to feel safe, feel secure. And if you think back, you'd find a nice cave. And that nice cave would provide some shelter, provide some protection. So you start to feel safe, start to feel secure. And maybe outside the cave, there's a little stream not too far, so you got some fresh water. And because there's water, there's animals and vegetation. So all of a sudden, we get really comfortable. So this idea of having to continuously travel and put ourselves into this state of unknown and feeling uncomfortable becomes, let's be honest, when we feel comfortable, we don't like to rock the boat, So right down to that little piece within us. Whether you call it fear or just the unknown. When we find ourselves in a place where we're feeling safe, we don't want to change that. We try to lock on to that. And so procrastinating, because at times, not always necessarily are we being challenged for our survival. I think if it comes down to that sort of fight or flight response, we're often going to fight or run, right? But for the most part, the way our lives go is we don't have a lot of overwhelming challenges like we did back in the day. I mean, we're pretty grateful we live in a country like we do, and have the freedoms that we do, and the ability to decide what we do when we want to do it, and hopefully for the right reasons. And when we're not connected with those reasons, it's just easy to put things off, like really just put them off. There's no immediate need. And that itself creates a lot of negative emotions, doesn't it? I mean, really, like when we find ourselves putting things off, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of blame, even some shame, self-judgment. I mean, there's a whole pile of these negative emotions that come up, and we beat ourselves up. And then we look for ways to sort of soothe those negative emotions, or at least distract ourselves from them. I was famous for this, many, many years ago, where I used to rely on alcohol, to be perfectly blank. Yeah, I mean, alcohol was a nice escape for me. And so after a long day of being stressed, being anxious, and knowing that I've got other things to focus on and do, and commitments to follow through on, I was like, oh, I'll just have a couple drinks, I'll feel okay. And, just ease the anxiety and some of this negative vibes. And that's how you start to create a habit. You do that on a regular, and it became a very strong habit in my life. And that's another story entirely. But to answer your question, why do we procrastinate? Well, it's in our blood, in our DNA.
Right, yeah.
It's not our fault, but there are ways to overcome that ingrained natural auto response, if you will.
Well, that's it. No, and I think you described that perfectly. And even like, in Ontario here, it's a change of season. It gets a little cooler. Like when you talked about like just feeling comfortable, like when the weather gets cold, like it's like, it is a primal feeling of just like getting comfortable and kind of like relaxing more when,
For sure.
And let's talk about that a little bit. You talk about like the dangers of procrastination, and you just brought up some, potentially unhealthy habits. Like what are the dangers of procrastination? How can we overcome it?
Well, the biggest one, you can die. And people are always like, what? I can die from procrastinating? And yeah, I mean, really, when it gets down to it, being someone that's been in the health and wellness industries for just over 25 years, I've worked in lots of different capacities within the industry, and had a lot of opportunities to get around a lot of different types of people. And very often people are motivated initially to make a change. Right? They get excited. I want to make a change. I want to get healthy. I want to get fit. I want to do my first 5K, right? Like whatever the catalyst was that created that desire to want to see something change in their life. It was real.
Yeah.
And it got them started. But, life gets in the way, and all of a sudden we realize, oh man, this requires work. This isn't as much fun as sitting on my couch and Netflix and chill, on the regular, or just hanging out with friends. We start to realize that some of these commitments that we're making to move towards maybe a health or a lifestyle goal, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, and it involves a lot of repetition, creating new habits. And if the body, and especially the mind, is fighting against that, it becomes really hard, right? Like really, really challenging for some folks. And eventually, and just, you can probably relate to this. You probably know people that have been to a health professional or a doctor, or, medical professional. And they've said, after doing some tests and a series of really observing their patient, they come to a conclusion that, if you don't change some of these habits that are holding back, you from thriving in your life, you're going to die. Like we see this all the time. I mean, look at the statistics now globally that relate to morbid obesity, right? And all the other health and other aspects of that, and negative aspects that it creates in people's lives. And yet we know this. We might have the best of intentions to start something, but then we let all the other things that aren't as, I'll argue, not as important on the long-term scope of things. I mean, it might be, being financially responsible and having a career and having those responsibilities and family commitments. Listen, I'm not saying those aren't important, but at the end of the day, if you're not healthy.
I was going to say, if you're not even here to,
Exactly. If you're not healthy and you're not able to maintain a great work ethic and be productive, well, it's going to start affecting you professionally, and it's also going to affect you personally. Like when you're not healthy. I mean, I always use the example, like think about the last time you had the flu. right? And I'm not talking like the man flu, which I've had occasionally, you know, and I just sort of chill out for the afternoon and I'm not feeling well, I got a sniffle, you know, like a bit of a wimp, but, you know, like the real flu, you know, you got a fever and you're feeling awful, body's aching and just you're lethargic and tired and you just don't want to do anything. I get that. But imagine if you had a chronic ailment or you had that kind of a feeling all the time. Would you not want to do something to change that? You know, and yet we learn to tolerate some of those things. So to answer your question, procrastination can kill you. You know, when we put off doing the things that we know are actually good for us and will help us facilitate positive change and adaptation in our life. Yeah, the underlying fear is that, yeah, if I don't adopt new habits that are healthier for me and going to bring me closer to living a healthier, more active lifestyle, well, we have to accept the opposite of that will become very true, which
Exactly.
is we will get sicker, our quality of life will decrease, our ability to just be independent and autonomous individuals, it becomes compromised. So that's the big one. And then if we talk about emotions, yeah, I mean, there's self-sabotage and the negative emotions that are attached with that, with procrastination. You never realize your full potential as a human being. You know, you put it off, we delay it because, you know, there's a lot of fear of failure, right? I mean, well, if I go try this new thing and I go put myself out there, I might fail. I might not be able to do it. Oh, can I deal with those negative emotions? Can I deal with the negative pressures? Can I deal with the judgment of others that might be thinking that I'm a failure, you know? And if I can't handle that, so maybe I won't do that. And yet we talk about doing it,
Yes.
but we never do it, which makes it even worse. You know, it compounds those negative emotions. So yeah, those are just some of the things to be concerned
The
about with
dangers. Yeah, no, I
procrastination.
think
Yeah.
you hit it on the nail there. And you know, you really, you know, I think, thank you for setting, like, you really set a good landscape of helping us understand, like, you know, where does this come from? What are the big dangers? So let's start getting into, you know, some of the solutions. I'm really curious to know more about the tools and techniques. Like, what is there out there to overcome procrastination at life and work? And maybe if you can give like a real life example of something like you've done to hack your life to bring this to life would be awesome.
Well, so people meet me, and when they learn about my professional background, especially my involvement in the health and wellness industries, they just presume that I'm someone that's always been into like fitness and healthy living and geesh, wow, you just must be that guy, you know? And and I always find it funny, you know, I'll be at a party or a social event or even like a networking event. When people find out about my background, they just automatically start talking about all the things they believe they ought to be doing. You know? And I remember also being in the buffet line, you know, getting food, and people are like, know who I am. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, you're judging me right now, aren't you? And I'm like, no, I'm not. But you're probably judging yourself. And stop that. You know, like this is just food. It's not good or bad. There's no morality involved with food. There's just things that either help us thrive or things that will just help us survive, you know, and it's just getting really clear on which one you want to prioritize. But circling back and to close the loop on what you asked, you know, I didn't come to fitness or health naturally. You know, from the age of 9 to 14, I progressively got bigger and bigger because I wasn't moving my body. I was eating a lot of very nutrition poor foods, yet calorie rich. And played a lot of video games, watched a lot of movies, started to withdraw a lot based on just a lot of negative self-esteem and self-opinions. And let's put it this way, I got quite large. I got to the point that, you know, I remember the GP pulling my mom aside one day at a checkup and saying, Betty Ann, your son is morbidly obese. I'm like, psh. Now, you know, me at 14, I'm like, I don't know what morbidly means. I don't know what obese means. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound like a good thing, you know, especially you had to take my mom outside the room and whisper this to her, but of course I overheard it. And I remember that just opening up a whole lot of questions for me.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wasn't happy. I knew that, you know, as a kid, younger, you know, kids can be mean, but when they got into teenagers and into high school, it was like, man, they can be cruel, you know, like it was hard. And, you know, as much as they all did, they were only in those moments when I was at the school or in those social situations, but I had to live with me 24/7. And I'll tell you that some of the things that I talked about myself far worse than anybody else was saying to me, you know, that negative self-talk especially. And I remember people wanted to help me change, but I kept putting it off. And I was like, because I didn't really want to change. Bottom line, I didn't. And then at age 14, you know, I sort of hit what I believed the proverbial rock bottom. I sort of had one of those moments where I just realized, my goodness, maybe it would be a lot easier if I just wasn't around anymore. You know, I didn't have to deal with any of this. I really don't like who I am. In fact, I'd go as far as to say I hated myself, and it's a really strong word. I know that. I don't use it lightly. And I remember locking eyes in the mirror one day and just being like, gosh, I don't like you. In fact, I hate you. I'm disgusted by you. And, you know, the ugly cry ensued. Yeah, we all know that. It was just like sobbing. And something clicked. You know, something clicked, Samantha. I just was like, you know what? This is not, I became quite fearful that if I didn't make a change, if I didn't put into action some little tweaks, just little things, nothing major. I wasn't looking to rewrite my life, but just a couple little things, that I was destined to stay on the path that I was. You know, so it felt like I was at a crossroads. And I think a lot of people feel this way at times. Sometimes we feel like we're painted into a corner and it's like, oh, I got no other choice. I got to do something different. But I think a lot of times we do get to a point where we have options, and it's clear that we can either do something or not do something. I realized at that moment that if I decided to continue doing life as I was doing it, with all the negative baggage that came with it, if I was really honest with myself, 5, 10, 20 years down the road, it was not going to be any better by me continuing to do what I was doing. I was really afraid of that path, more afraid of that path than of the idea of the unknown, of changing my situation, figuring out new ways of doing things to produce different results. And I think that is really what change is for a lot of us. And overcoming procrastination specifically comes to a point where it's like, the reason why we want to follow through with things is because of a much bigger picture and a bigger reason for our life. So we need a powerful why, a powerful reason to stay self-motivated, because, you know, that intrinsic motivation, and I would go as far as to call it inspiration. You know, motivation is often relying on things outside of ourselves. You know, we try to self-motivate, but I believe that it's more inspiration, something from the inside that gets us moving and keeps us moving. Motivation helps us just maintain some of the momentum. And, but that inertia, that initial getting started, has to start from within. And so number one, figure out why. What you want for your life and why you want it. Mm-hmm. If you can answer those questions, it will give you a lot of clarity. And with clarity comes confidence. And once you have some self-confidence that you have the right path in front of you, it's a lot easier to take action. Yeah. So those are some of the initial pieces I highly recommend when it comes to starting the battle against procrastination. Because really, at times, it's just... sometimes the fight seems like too much of a battle, and we feel helpless, or we feel like, well, you know, as much as I fight, I don't know if I'll really get the results, because either we've failed a bunch in the past, like I did. I've had a lot of these yo-yo moments, you know, gained the weight, lost the weight, gained the weight, got fit, got healthy, got an injury, got, you know, out of shape again, like all this stuff. I mean, that's life. Didn't mean I stopped, but I had to adapt. And, So that would be the big ones. Having a plan is number 2. So powerful why, having a plan. Number 3 is develop a routine. Okay. Right? You need to have ritual, something that you do regularly, usually defines character as well. You know, so it's like, am I proactively living into the type of person that I want to be? And for me, like you mentioned earlier, some of my pillars, like health is a big one. I know if I'm not healthy, I can't be the best dad for my kids. I can't be the best husband. I can't be the best man, best friend, best supporter, best community leader that I can be if my health is compromised and I'm not proactively doing something to maintain, or at least constantly see it improve. So hopefully those sort of sum up some ideas that people can start to lock on. You know, for me, it was just getting started and doing a little bit every day. So that was it. I started, my parents bought me a mountain bike. I wanted to change now. Why did I want to change? Because I was more afraid of the idea of not changing than I was of the idea of changing. So I
Okay.
took control, started doing a little bit every day, just mountain biking every day. Like that
Nice.
was it. And I went to the library. My kids were like, well, you went to the library, Dad? I'm like, yeah, I'm older than Google. Okay. So
I
take
love it.
off, you know?
Yeah.
And they're still like, huh? Wow, Dad's really old. So I got books on nutrition and on fitness and on
Yeah.
health. And I just educated myself, you know? And as I started to educate myself again, that built up that confidence.
Yeah.
And as I gained the confidence, and it was a lot easier for me to start doing things differently, and trusting a process, because it doesn't happen overnight. I remember about 3 weeks in, well, when I first started, there was this big hill that I would always go to. And I remember the very first time coming out of that hill, I was just like, this is massive. I can do this. You know, you start, well, you have that self-talk. It's like, it's so optimistic, right? I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to do this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I remember starting up the hill. I got about a third of the way up and I stopped moving. I was just like, okay, I'm not even close. And like, and got off the bike, walked to the top. But I was like, okay, well, we'll try it again tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, and then the next day. About 3.5 weeks in, I remember was the very first time I didn't have to get off the bike. I made it to the top. And I was just like, whoa, I did it.
Yeah.
You know, and that, without that win, I don't know if I would have sustained what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like when I think back on it, like we need little victories, right?
Yes.
We need to feel assured or reassured that the little things that we're doing are actually making a difference for us in our lives.
Yes.
You know, it's the what's in it for me approach, right? Like, come on, it's basic survival as well. It's like, man, I'm putting a lot of effort in this. I'm consuming a lot of energy to try to make these changes. Is it working? Because if we're not seeing the results, it's easy to give up.
Exactly.
It's hard to stay motivated, hard to stay inspired even. And so looking for those little wins every day, because making a change can happen in an instant. Overcoming procrastination literally happens in an instant. You go from not doing to doing, and it happens very quick. Like literally, it's as fast as a thought can pop in your mind.
Yes.
And the trick is, as soon as you have the thought to do something, you do it. And give yourself a commitment. I will do it, and I'm going to set a timer, and I'll do it for at least a minimum of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I will go, and I'm going to start it for 5 minutes. And the funny thing is, you know, when it comes to health and fitness, none of my clients have ever reached out and said, Dai, you know what? Oh, I worked out today. I had a salad with some lean protein for lunch. Man, I regret those decisions. like
No one ever.
No one ever says that, right? They don't say that.
No.
Remember that.
Yeah.
Remember that. However, at the end of the day, if you said, well, I had a routine, I have this morning ritual, I know I get a workout in, have a nice green healthy smoothie, I might do a little bit of reading or some meditation, but I didn't do that today. It beats us up. We beat ourselves up. We start to feel like a failure. It's like, well, no, it's not a failure. Okay, you didn't do it this morning, but could you do it this afternoon? Well, I could, but I got this. I mean, what do you have? You know, and fit it in. Because if it's important, you'll figure out a way to make it happen.
Exactly.
Right? So sorry, I can talk
and
around in circles on this stuff, but
say, like, you know, thank you for bringing up the story of, you know, the 9-year-old Dai, because I think as adults we forget, like some of us have families and young people in our life, and we don't think, oh, you know, like they can't have anything going on. Like we take good care of them. And, you know, but you talked about a pivotal time, like from 9 to 14. And I think that's very awakening for us, because we think that this is, you know, like adults, mental health and procrastination, you know what I mean? That this is something like for us folks, you know, the people who work at the library, but it's not just those people. It's, you know, it starts really young. So thank you for kind of bringing that to light and shining the light on that, you know, to be a bit mindful of the little humans around us and maybe some indicators that we might not have noticed. So that's really telling. And thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the science that's proven effective for limiting procrastination. What have you found?
Well, you know, repetition. Like, what is a habit, right? A habit's anything that we do regularly. And we find some habits we just do automatically now. You know, like when was the last time you found yourself commuting to, say, work or to your favorite grocery store? You know, you could be doing 20 things and somehow you end up there. You know, like you know, you left the house, you know, you drove the same route that you normally drive. Man, you maybe even had a conversation with a parent, you know, with a friend while you were driving there, you know, on Bluetooth. And all of a sudden you show up to the parking lot, like, whoa, I'm here already. And you start to think back and you're like, how did I get here again? Because there is a lot of things that we do on a regular basis, and it becomes so automatic that the subconscious can literally do a lot of the work for us.
Yes.
And I think we forget that at times, the power of the mind. And if people are interested, I got some articles on epigenetics, and it really talks a lot about this idea of the influence of the mind over the body, and vice versa.
Yes.
Some of this really tight connection and our ability to literally facilitate change. A lot of it starts with the mindset, right? And my goodness, I'm getting off track here. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so we have these automatic habits.
That's right.
Right? We have some that, like maybe nighttime snacking, right?
Yes.
That might be one. Or like myself, about 11 years ago, if I felt stressed and anxious, and by the end of the day, it was like, oh, I'm gonna have a glass of wine or two. That's how I'm gonna ease my nerves. I'm going to relax. I deserve this. It's a reward, for managing and dealing with my stressful life,
Yeah.
And so we start looking at some of our habits, some of the things we do very regularly that become so automatic for us. And we start asking ourselves, okay, well, are these habits allowing me to be the best version of myself? Is this really in alignment with the type of life that I want? And that sort of brings us back to those initial questions. What do you want? What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of life do you want to be living? Like, what do you want for you, for your life? And a lot of people aren't used to being asked that question.
Yes.
Nor being asked that question and actually have someone wait for a response, And so creating that space for oneself to reflect on that and introspect and really get clear on, well, here is what I want. Because if you can't articulate what you want, no one can help you and support you getting there. And probably more likely than not, you can't even help yourself to get there. And so we definitely need clarity around that. So it's the habit. Okay, so let's talk about the science of habits. We have a trigger.
Yes.
We have a response, and then that response creates a result. And a lot of times we really want the result. We all want results. I mean, if you buy a course, you hire a coach, you hire a trainer. I mean, you go to university to get an education, right? Like, yeah, you might like all the people that are involved in the A to B to C, but really at the end of the day, why are you spending the money and investing the time and the resources? Well, it's for a certain result. So we have to recognize the results often do motivate us.
Yes.
And, but there's always a trigger. There's always a response, which is ultimately the habit. And if we want to start to achieve certain results, we have to start to ask ourselves, well, what are the best habits to allow me to achieve those? And then creating certain triggers.
Yeah.
Right. For myself with drinking, I had stressed out and anxious.
Yeah.
That was my trigger. My response, have a drink or two. The result, in the moment, I felt a lot better, felt a little bit easier. I was able to escape some of the stress and the anxiety. And so this became my habit, but this was a daily occurrence, and it would affect my next day. My next morning, I would sleep in. I wouldn't get the workout in that I would usually commit to. And then if I didn't get my workout in, I know I would eat certain types of foods throughout the day. I'd have certain cravings. I wasn't in a healthy frame of mind because I'd already started the day off on the wrong foot as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
So because of one decision, one habit, it led to a cascading effect of a bunch of other stuff, which I wasn't also happy with. So it was almost this downward spiral. And I really identified that one habit. So what did I have to do? Well, I wanted to remove the habit of having to drink every time I felt stressed or anxious.
Yes.
But I had to replace it with something else. And for me, that was a lot of meditation. It was reflection. It was also a Toastmasters, to be honest, like finding a community of positive people. So stress and anxiety, I needed to learn new ways of coping with that and dealing with it.
Yes.
And I used to deal with social anxiety. Speaking in front of people is like, wow, I could handle small pockets, but anything in large groups, I just shut down and what am I going to do? I'd feel stressed, I feel anxious, and I realized it was something that I wanted to overcome. And so I had to find ways to do that. That was, again, finding a great community to support me, and a lot of other little things had to happen as well. But I was committed to the process.
Exactly. I think that's very telling in the environment we live in right now. I've read stats that they're saying like drinking is
Mm.
on the rise due to our
Mm-hmm.
current lifestyle. So, I don't, for some people out there, maybe think, oh, how can I possibly replace alcohol with a meditation class? Like, are you kidding me? But like you said, you did it. It's possible, like it's possible. Surround yourself with people who will lift you higher, so you wanted to get into a higher state of mind to elevate yourself. This is what I'm getting for, and then you joined Toastmasters as a community. And I've been doing the same thing, because I'm literally home all day long now for work, for life, so
Right.
I've instead of going out for classes, I've joined classes. I have my weekly rituals. I have things to look forward to, my meditation classes, my fitness classes, my girlfriend chat times, over Skype and kombucha, so it's, so I think it is, anything's possible. And, thank you so much for sharing all of these great tips. And, like I could really listen to you all day. I don't know if you in real life you did online, like workshops and stuff like that, but I think what you're talking about right now, you make it really like bite size and edible. Like I actually kind of want to like leap out of my chair and think and think about all the stuff. So I hope those that are listening today, like you got something from what Dai said, and we'll be continuing the conversation with him at MoveCon, our conference that's coming up very, very soon. So he's gonna deeper dive into this conversation. You're gonna hear it again, because I think with procrastination, as you said, like it can be like an instant reward, but then we could also take 10 steps back like the next day. So it really is something that, we all need to work on. And you've provided a tremendous amount of information in a short period of time, Dai. Like, it's clearly something you're passionate about. And thank you so much for sharing what you talked about today. And let's leave them on something fun. Like, so you talk that, like you're the purveyor of happiness and fun. Like, can you like tell us little things you do in your everyday life that, that you're like, that bring you joy for fun?
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, if you're not bringing a smile to your face every day, I mean, chances are there's room for improvement. I would go as far to say, there's a better way to do things. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, not to steal away from what we'll talk about at the conference itself, but Joseph Campbell wrote a book called The Power of Myth, and it talks about the hero's journey. Like, we're all on a journey, all of us. And along the journey, we meet amazing people that change our perspective, shift our belief in ourselves, and we go about our way. But throughout life and on this journey, we're always encountering challenges, and some of them we're triumphant, we overcome. Some of them push us back, we fall down, we got to get back up, we try to figure out other ways to get around it, or we change our path. All good. This is just part of life, and I think it's just recognizing that, as he puts it, challenging us to always ask ourselves, are we following our bliss? Am I choosing to do the things every day that allow me to maximize my sense of happiness, fulfillment, and joy? So bottom line, if I start looking at all the things I do in a day, majority of it is stuff that I really like. It brings me happiness. It brings me joy. It brings me fulfillment. Makes me feel connected, and hey, I'll be honest with you, this year's been challenging. A lot of the things that I used to do to bring me fun would involve social engagement with people at events and various communities that we meet in person. So I found it really challenging the first couple months of COVID, especially with that, just the change of how we navigated events and community, right? Yeah. But the beautiful thing is we've all adapted and we've found other ways to fill that, right? Like, look at what you guys are doing. I mean, I'm so grateful to be part of this MoveCo community, because it's exactly that. It's a community.
It's a community. Coast to coast. We came together. I would have never met you if it wasn't for this pandemic, right? So that's right. You're right. And, find your bliss in every day, in your moments. Take stock of how you filled your day and say, like, yeah, did it bring me joy? Like, I think you're right. That's as simple as that. So thank you so much, Dai. DaiManuel.com. In the show notes, you're going to see. I think he'd love to hear from you of what you thought. Absolutely. On Instagram. He's online, so please connect with him. If there's something that resonated with you, we'd love to know in the comments below. And Dai, thank you so much. See you in a few weeks at MoveCon, and absolutely. Keep doing what you're doing. It brought me great joy to talk to you today. Take care.
Thank you so much, Samantha. Love what you're doing. Appreciate and feel honored for the opportunity to talk to you today. So again, thank you as well.